It's time for Wednesday ramblings. Hi, this is Anna from Paste Me Book, and today's Wednesday, so I'm going to do my Wednesday ramblings. It's going to be quite a short clip, this one, because there's not that much to update. Um, I feel that I haven't, or I really don't seem to find the time, don't have the time to do any reading. Well, that's not quite true. I did read a few pages last night before I went to bed, but I was forced to put the book down, although it was quite an exciting point, and I wanted to continue reading that book, but I knew I'd be too tired in the morning. So discipline took over. That was that. However, what I have decided to do, because as I said, I don't seem to find the time or have the time to read, I have taken up, or I've made it more okay for me to listen to audiobooks and accept that this is an alternative to reading, because I have a 40-minute journey to work, or perhaps 45 minutes. So I can use that time to actually listen to some books. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm listening to more books, audiobooks, that is, and getting in with my books that way. I was going to say getting into my reading of books that way, but I don't quite get this thing of saying I'm reading an audiobook. For me, I don't get it, but that each to his own. So I'll just listen to my audiobook. um, so at the moment, I was listening to a children's book, actually. There's a children's series that's called The Dark is Rising, and it's by Susan Cooper. And I'm listening to the third one in the series. I think it's the third, and it's called Greenwitch. I can't quite remember the reader, um, but he's very good. He's actually a very good reader. But anyway, Greenwich is the third book in the series. The first one might be Over Sea, Under Stone, I think it's called, and then the second part's The Dark is Rising, and then Greenwich. I listened to the first. Let me get it right. I listened to the first one, but the second one isn't quite available, so I listened to the third one, hopped over the second one for the time being. This is a series that I read when I was still young, many a moon ago, and I totally loved this series. It was a series that, as soon as it came out, cycled down to the book to what was it called? I think it was a Puffins book shop in Cambridge where I lived at the time, um, and bought it every single time the new book was out. I was down there. I loved that series. I think it must have been one of my favorite at that age. So I actually read it when I was younger. I couldn't really remember it, but as because I loved it, I thought at one point, why don't I just listen to this on audio now? So that's what I'm doing, and I actually find that I had a general idea what it was about, but I couldn't quite remember what it was about. But I find it a very gripping story, and I think that the man who reads it, I'll find out his name and put it down in the description. The man who reads it, he does it so well. I have no complaints there. For me, as I say, with audiobooks, it's a lot has to do with who reads it for the listener to actually feel that this is a good book. It might be a good book, but the wrong person is reading it to you, so it doesn't work. Because sometimes, especially if you've read a book, sometimes you've already imagined how people sound, and then it becomes such a complete disappointment when someone reads it and they all sound completely different. But this man, he actually reads it very well. His children's voice is, for all the children's voices, he does it very well, because you really do feel that they're kids who are talking, even though they're not actually kids' voices. He does it really well, and he does the rest of the characters, pretty okay. No, that's wrong. Pretty okay is not what I mean. I do mean he does them well. Um, Pretty okay is wrong, and he really makes the stories come to life, and he really makes it very. He really takes you into the story that you want to know what's going on. You want to move on to the next page, and he makes you feel that even though Barney, who's the youngest child, there are three kids in this family. There's Simon, there's Jane, and there's Barney. I think Barney's 7, Simon might be 11 or something like that, and Jane 10. I can't quite remember. But anyway, Barney, who's the youngest, might even be 6. You get to a point where you're also thinking, because Barney's he wants to do everything. He wants to be out there finding adventure, and he doesn't have this consequence way of thinking always. And you're thinking, me as the listener, I'm thinking, but Barney, why are you doing this? Think what's going to happen. And there is the adult coming in when you're reading a children's book. I'm sure I didn't think this way when I read it as a child. I'm sure Barney was doing all the right things for his age. So let me just not let me take out my adult thinking and find my inner child when I read this book. But the reader, he does, as I was saying, he really makes you think that the kids are the kids. But as an adult, well, some of the things they do are a bit, yeah, you're thinking, nah, don't do that. And the other thing that I realize in this book, these three kids, they're out in Cornwall. And the thing about this book, it's a what would you call it? Would you call it fantasy, I suppose? They're looking for the Holy Grail, and it's a fight between the dark and the light, and the kids are, of course, on the light side. And what happens is they're out. The three kids are out in this particular book, the Greenwitch. They're out on holiday with an American family that they've met, that their parents have met and sent them and allowed them to go and stay. But what grabs me as an adult now is that there's the adults, the ones who are looking after the kids, they're not really that much a part of this story. Albeit there's some adults, it's not these adults. And you never really get the impression that these adults who are looking after these three kids have any idea what they're doing. And I go back to my childhood, and I can honestly say that perhaps our parents didn't always know what we were doing, but I think they would always know if we came in at night at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, or it was dark or something like that, or if we were gone the whole day. But these adults don't seem to have this idea, and I'm thinking. But then I have to take a step back and think, well, it is a children's book, and I should just back off. I'm sure I didn't think this way at all when I was reading this book when I was young. So I'll just enjoy the book, and it is very, very enjoyable. So that I can do, getting back to point, I can get to listening. I can get some listening in when I'm driving to work and when I'm driving home from work. So that way I will manage to get my books, or get to listen to some books. And it's not just going to be stuck on the same books that I'm reading for a whole year. It will probably be a collection of 2 for the whole year, but we'll see. So other than that, there really isn't that much of an update. Another book that I was listening to, it's called Their Eyes Were Watching God, I think it is, by Zora. I'd have to put it down, I've forgotten. This, I think, is not a new book. I just found it by chance because I was looking, can't remember, I was looking for something on American Black female authors, and this was a selection, and this was one of them. So that I'm listening to also on audio. I haven't got very far with this one at all. I think I'm just in the first page. Here the author, or the reader, she's a good reader. I know nothing about this book at all, or nothing about the story at all, nothing about the author either. She's a good reader, but for me, the accent is not so easy. As we know, American accents can be different depending on where you are. Black South from the South. Black Americans from the South have different accents, and that dialect, should I call it a dialect? Accent dialect, is not very easy for me. So I'm thinking I might have to read the book at the same time to actually understand what it is she's saying. But for the time being, I shall persevere anyway, because, as I say, I that way I can um, get through books by listening to them, and perhaps I'll catch on the accent in the end. Who knows? If you listen long enough, you improve. But it actually, I've only listened to a bit, but it actually seems to be an interesting book. But I haven't got very far. Let's see what else is there to update. So otherwise, I'm just still reading 2 books, more or less, and 3 or 4 short story collections. The short story collections is going um, slow but sure, just because they are short stories, so it's easier to finish the story and then put the book down and then pick it up again. So there I'm going a bit, perhaps I should say a bit quicker. I guess that's true. It's going a bit quicker than the other 2 books that I'm reading. So that's good. I did find another short story book when I was going through our collection on the shelves. So I don't know whether I'll throw that one in also. It was by Peter Carey, the author, Collected Stories. I've seen the book on the shelf, but I've never actually opened it. So it could be time. Perhaps it's just as well add it to my short story collection reading time and see whether it's any good. It's probably a very well known author. I'll check that out. Yeah, that's about it. Um, so until next time, thank you for listening to the end as always. Bye bye.